I recommend keeping I like 20 ounce, like a blender bottle on your bedside. And when that alarm goes off, like for your first snooze, drink it, drink all of it, chug it like you are a 20-year-old at the fraternity house. Okay. Drink that water and go back to bed. Take your snooze. Here's what happens. Your snooze is probably 9 minutes. And I guarantee you, especially if you've had a child, your bladder is not going to be able to hold it. Welcome to the Run Lift Mom podcast, where we're talking about running, lifting, and momming, not necessarily in that order. Today, we're squarely in the running category with a little bit of momming thrown in, and this is audio from the Bomb Mom podcast with Melissa Vogel. I was a guest on Melissa's podcast a few weeks ago, and she very graciously gave me the audio to share with you today. In it, you're going to hear me talk a little bit about the Guinness World Record with the triplets a few years ago. You're going to hear me talk a lot about season of life and balance and making fitness a priority, how to get up early in the morning and become a morning person, as well as nerding out with stroller running. We touched on all things here. It's a little bit longer than the Run Lift Mom episodes are these days, but I hope you'll give me some grace there because we had a great conversation and I am so excited to share it with you. Without further ado, here I am on the Bomb Mom podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Bomb Mom podcast. And are we in for a treat today? We have Suzy Goodwin here. Suzy, welcome to the show.
I'm so excited to be here, Melissa.
I know you are my fellow podcaster and you are just your bomb. Like your resume just speaks for itself. Mother of triplets and a 7-year-old. I mean, your running resume alone just blows me out of the water. Girl, I'm lucky if I've ever hit 4 miles in my life.
Oh, I appreciate it. You know, running is my happy place. I know we're going to get into that.
Yeah, and I feel like everyone has to have a happy place. Mine's in the weight room and yours is running. I've found, though, a new happy place with hiking, and that's a lot of miles. So I'm getting there.
I always tell people if they say they don't like running, it's funny you mentioned that because I encourage them to get on the trail for people who really like to experience nature or be kind of meditative with their movement. Mm-hmm. The trail is a completely different experience.
It totally is. And I had no idea I'd have such a love for it. Until after I did it, I'm like, oh my God, all those miles and the fear and the worry creeps in, what if I can't, what if I get stuck? What if, and I'm like, when have I ever let a what if stop me? But I'm doing it now with, miles and running and being scared of all that. So I love that you are such a pro and an athlete at this now, and you're still doing it because you did all the running and the training and the marathons before babies.
Absolutely did. Melissa, we had a hard time getting pregnant. So, running became my coping, right? Like I liked running before and I was already a marathon runner, but then when we went through that fertility stuff, I mean, that was my coping technique, right or wrong. And so when I got pregnant with my first son via IUI, so for folks that have been down this road down there, it's like the unsexiest way to have a baby ever, like turkey baster method is usually how I describe it. I had already run, I had over 25 marathons under my belt, a number of 50 milers, 50 Ks. And then I ran through pregnancy and, just when you think you're a pro at running with a stroller, God will laugh and give you 3. But that didn't stop me either because I had a stroller running journey with the triplets and now they run with me. Now, I'm not going to say that they love it every single time, but I will tell you that 75% of my children, 3 out of 4, also enjoy running with me. And so I guess the picture I'm trying to paint is running is a sport that can really be with you in each season of life.
Yes, I love that. And you know what? You can't say that for many sports.
Right. Right. I mean, it has to change. We have to change our mindset on it a bit because, when I was in my 20s, training looked a lot different. My body recovered a lot differently, right? Like it responded differently mechanically. I was better. It looked a lot different. I could show up to pretty much any race and qualify for the Boston Marathon. Like, hey, I'm the best. Guess what? I mean, I don't have to tell you, your body changes
Yeah.
when you have a baby. The triplets left me with a pretty serious case of diastasis recti, which means abdominal separation.
Yep.
And so, as you know, because you are the fitness expert, a lot of power comes from your core when you run. And so that's something that I've also had to do physical therapy through and work through. But friend, each and every season of life. So it looks differently, but running has been there for me, and it's been a tool that I can use to cope.
Yeah. And man, being a mom, especially of triplets, I have triplet cousins. So when I was younger, God, how old was I? I had to been like middle school. And I would go back and spend my summers helping my aunt raise them and take care of them and, everything. So I have a taste of what it's like, but man, I don't know how you do it. Your running resume, is that what we call it? Do we call it a running resume?
Funny enough, we do. I mean, I've been doing this. I did my first marathon, and I'm knocking on 40 right now. I did my first marathon in 2003. And yeah, runners do, like in those circles, we call it a running resume, meaning like the things that you have done in your running career, significant races, significant accomplishments, things like that.
What are your big ones? Tell me, because I was going to lift them, but I was going to list them, but I'd much rather have you say them.
I think my most proud is actually, I'm the former Guinness World Record holder for the fastest half marathon with a triple pram female. And that was a record that I set back in 2015, actually to bring awareness to the great work that God did through the NICU that the triplets stayed in for their first year of life. So we did that for their NICU anniversary, like the homecoming. So world record on that half marathon. And then I have to tell you also the 100-miler. I did a 100-miler during 2020. It was a race that got pandemic canceled. And it was one of those scenarios where it was like, are you going to defer it to next year? Or are you going to take this virtual option and do it in 2020? And my mentality, my thinking was, why can't 2020 be my year? This has been on my bucket list for a decade. Why not me? Why not now? Why not in 2020? So I'm very proud to tell you that I am a 100-mile finisher as well. And I did it in 2020 instead of waiting.
Oh my God. How long did it take you to finish that?
It took 24 hours and 57 minutes. And I will tell you, and the reason I'm getting very specific about that, in the running world, sub 24, that's like the gold standard. That's what everybody goes for. It's almost like in the marathoning world, a sub 3-hour marathon for a female. That's kind of like what people are going for. So in the ultra world, sub 24 hours is like the thing. And I didn't lose I was on pace for a sub 24 until about, I don't know, 90 miles in, which if anybody's listening out there, like, so close. But here's the thing, and here's why I'm telling you the story. It was still a win for me because I set 2 goals at the beginning. I set that sub 24 was my stretch goal, but my goal for the race, my goal was to complete 100 miles. And so it's one of those, like, if you reach for the moon, you'll land on the stars kind of scenarios. I knew in my very first 100-miler, was I going to get 24 hours? Yeah, probably not. But I still made that my goal. Absolutely. And I reached for the moon there. I still fell on the stars because I was only 57 minutes short.
Oh my God. I have to ask, how did you push through those last few, I'm going to call them steps, because I got to imagine you get to a point, I'm not even going to say miles or whatever. I got to imagine you get to a point where you're like, 1 foot in front of the other. Suzy, keep going. Like, how do you do that?
Actually, that is a lot like how my self-talk sounded. Just like in motherhood or in the weight room, Melissa, running is very much how do you eat an elephant 1 bite at a time?
Yeah.
You break down those big goals into smaller, bite-sized pieces. And so that first portion, I had 10 miles as a time. Like I would just run within that 10 miles, stay in my lane. 10 miles is done. All right, that's cool. Let's go for the next 10 miles. Once I got to about 80, now I'm doing 5 miles at a time. And friend, that last 5 or so miles, it was 1 mile at a time. My husband actually finished the final 3 miles with me. And it's not because he loves running or like needed to be out there for the significance of it. He was pretty worried about me at that point, and I think he thought I was going to like fall out. He told me that like later. But to answer your question, it's like we would approach any goal. There might be somebody out there listening that hasn't run a mile. Friend, I'm going to tell you to approach it the same way that I approached that 100. I broke it down into small, like mentally manageable pieces. And you can do that for your first 10-minute walk as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I love that because so many people get intimidated with starting their fitness journey at all. Like if someone has 50 pounds, they're like, I have 50 pounds to lose. How am I ever going to get this off? And then they compare themselves to who they were even before baby. If we're talking moms, even dads, who they were before kids and stuff. And they get so frustrated when they're like, I have so much to do. I'll never look like that. And I hate it when people go back and compare to what they were accomplishing before kids versus after. And people don't see too, that you can be even better than you were before kids.
I'll tell you, my most recent marathon is actually an example of that. So my personal records, so runners, we will call our personal records just like lifters will, they're PRs. We don't have a bell that we ring, but they're personal records for us, and we kind of carry them around as a recreational athlete. And so mine was actually from 2011. This was in a season of life where I was able to do doubles. I was in my late 20s. And so, look, my body was just working a lot differently. Mm-hmm. We lived in Alaska during that training cycle. And so, as a result, we were eating mostly local, organic, fresh, everything, because friends, that's what happens when you live in Alaska and like you're remote. It was like the picture of health. And then I ran a race that was, the marathon. It was 3 hours and 28 minutes. I don't know. It's just sub 8-minute miles for that 26.2 period. Okay, fast forward to a month ago at the time of this recording in 2021. I line up for Myrtle Beach, South Carolina marathon. I knew I was in okay shape, but I did not expect a PR. Okay, we're talking a decade and 4 kids and a case of diastasis recti later. 3:26. On paper, this should not happen, Melissa. And you know what I think it is?
Oh my God.
Right? And I know your show, and I know that you talk about the importance of mindset a lot. I mean, you just did it with the self-talk thing. I really, truly think it was the mindset thing. It's like, I've seen this starting line a lot. So I have that courage at the starting line that maybe I didn't have a decade ago. Yeah. I've got the maturity. And when I am at those low points, or I need to break down that larger goal into something smaller, that self-talk is a habit now, and it comes a lot easier. So, you can even outperform your 20-something self when you're knocking on 40.
You can. And more people need to hear that. That is like one of my missions with this podcast and everything that I do is just getting the word out because, especially over this last year, so many people have just lost a positive attitude. They don't see the end of the light at the end of the tunnel. They're discouraged, they're down, and then it reflects in their health and wellness, and I love that we get to have you on the show today talking about this again and breaking it down into bite-sized pieces and showing them that you can be better than you were before. I hate how the world's divided between like pre and post COVID. I don't even know if we're post, but pre-COVID, you can do better even before that. And how it is a mindset. And we don't have enough powerful women saying this out there. So I love that you're coming on. You're one more person that we can add, to our list. Be like, no, listen to this episode because this woman can do it. You can do it.
And it's helpful for someone that is doubting that, right? Yeah. Like allow us to be a voice, but then even someone who is also like waving this flag, like, yes, you go, girl. Yeah. It really validates right? It validates that belief and it makes this voice stronger that absolutely, yes, we can. We don't need to wait for the beginning of a year or a month, day one or a Monday even. You can decide to change in the middle of the month, in the middle of the year on a random Wednesday. Go
Yeah,
for it, my friend.
that's so true. What would you say to the mom that says, like, I just don't have time? Susie must have help, or, her husband must be amazing for her to get away to train all this time. What would you say to that naysayer?
I do have help and I do have an amazing husband, but I would say we're going to go back to this strategy of how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And I would say more is better than nothing. So if you know, as an example, that it is really great for your health, like the American College of Sports Medicine says, to get about 20 minutes, right, of activity a day. It's like 20 to 30 minutes a day, most days of the week. That can be in separate bouts or efforts. That can be 10, 10, 10. That can be 15, 15. And I think for most moms, that's going to be a lot more realistic than saying, hey, I'm going to wake up at 4 a.m. I do wake up at 4 a.m. And I want to tell you my mindset on this because I think it's going to resonate with a listener out there. My alarm goes off just before 4 a.m. because I got to hit that snooze at least once. And my mindset on this, and I've been doing this since the triplets were infants. And the reason why is because when my day actually begins, like around 7 a.m. or so, everyone needs things from me. And I'm not any different than any other mom listening out there. When the world wakes up, they need things from you.
Yeah.
You're going to have to be in reactive and responsive mode. And so what I really love about making my morning sacred, and I'm willing to get up earlier for it, because I know that is my time and I can do something great for myself before the rest of the world wakes up and before the world needs me. And sometimes when I want to hit that snooze button twice, my self-talk sounds like, well, do you want your time or not? You can sleep through it, or you can, get out in the garage or out on the road and grind.
Mm-hmm. And it's hard to answer back to yourself. No, I don't want it. I don't want my goal. Like, who sits there and says that to themselves, when they know you have big goals ahead, especially if you have them written out, if you have affirmations posted, like, it's hard to deny those, when it comes down to the grind of like, no, because sometimes I'm dragging myself by my ponytail and I'm like, no, I want it. And I sound terrible.
Can I give a couple of suggestions, just things that have worked for me?
Absolutely.
Number one, and this is not sexy at all, and your significant other may look at you like you have three heads when you get into bed. Sleep in activewear. I'm not kidding. Sleep in your activewear, your sports bra, your shorts. I don't recommend this with leggings just for breathability concerns. Mm-hmm. But if you sleep in your activewear and your alarm goes off and your bad self is like, girl, take that snooze, go back to bed, you're going to be able to counter that with your good self and say, well, you're already dressed.
Yep.
And then the second one that I have for you is, and I know that you talk about the importance of hydration for a number of holistic health reasons, but I want to talk to you behaviorally, like how do you drag yourself out of bed? I recommend keeping I like 20 ounce, like a blender bottle on your bedside. And when that alarm goes off, like for your first snooze, drink it, drink all of it, chug it like you are a 20-year-old at the fraternity house, okay? Drink that water and go back to bed. Take your snooze. Here's what happens. Your snooze is probably 9 minutes. And I guarantee you, especially if you've had a child, your bladder is not going to be able to hold it for 9 minutes. And so we all know the worst part in the morning is that time between when the alarm goes off and when your feet hit the ground. If your PP is making your feet hit the ground, you will be in a position to win. So those are my two tips.
That is so perfect. And I love the water one. I'm totally going to use that. I have water next to my bed and I get up and I drink, but I don't chug it in the sense to like make my butt get up and move. That's brilliant. And I love the sleeping in your activewear. The struggle, especially when it's cold outside, here in California, it's pretty warm in the morning, even when you wake up, but still that chill factor's there. And that's one thing I hate of like, getting out of the warmth and then, I got to get cold and, get undressed, then put it on. But I love if you're already in it. That's perfect. No excuses now.
Absolutely. For the water thing, I mean, look, I'm not full of many tips, but these random obscure ones, I am. Put just a little, because I've heard you talk about hydration before as well. And so we all know that like 20 ounces to the face, your tissues won't absorb all of that unless you've got sodium in that water. So just do like a pinch. I'm talking probably like less than a 16th of a teaspoon of, I like to do just like natural sea salt.
Yeah.
And there are two schools of thought out there. Some people say, oh, waterlogged, we're drinking too much water. And the advice that they give is all this water you're drinking is not being absorbed in your tissues. Well, that's how you get around that. Okay. The other, part of this is we know our hydration needs for the day are usually big and we have to break them down into smaller pieces. Do you see a theme here? If we have, if you've got 20 ounces of water toward your daily goal done already, it is going to seem easier throughout the rest of the day to hit that overall goal.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. Bite-sized pieces. It's like the theme of everything in life. And you have to. If you don't, being overwhelmed is like it's as bad as depression and anxiety. The feeling they go hand in hand. They're like sisters.
Agreed.
Can we just talk about stroller running really quick? Because we definitely have a lot of new moms, and they think, now that I've had a baby, I can't do anything. I have this kid. I can't walk. I can't run. I can't go to the gym. But incorporating that stroller, man, I did this. I know I didn't do it right, but I loaded those kids up and I was like, this is the only way I can get out of the house and walk right now. How does a new mom start off with stroller running and get good at it?
I'm going to give you just some mindset advice, and then I'm going to give you some tactical advice.
Perfect.
So the mindset advice is be flexible and be kind to yourself. Like, make it easier. So don't pack the kid with heavy things. Like if you've got like a toddler, don't give the toddler a heavy iPad, and like let them have pirate's booty and a little bit of water and route them around water, like water fountains or bubblers. So think about like tactical things like that. And then also know that you've got to be flexible with your training. If you are in this pre-baby mindset of, oh, well, I'm going to do 3 miles on Monday and I'm going to do 5 miles on Wednesday and I'm going to do 800-meter repeats, I'll have the stroller, but that's okay on Friday. Guess what? Maybe your child doesn't want to go around that circle when you're doing the repeats on the track. Or maybe the track says, dude, you can't have a stroller here. Or maybe like friend, he or she might have a blowout in the middle of that 5-mile run and you got to go home because you used your last, spare diaper. Things are going to happen. And so you have to have a flexible approach. And I find that for a training program, that is very necessary. And I've got a freebie for your listeners to this end with a half marathon schedule. But then, also from just a mindset, you have got your self-talk needs to sound like, this is a gift. More is better than nothing. Mm-hmm. We are going to enjoy this together. Running needs to look differently. Now, if you've never been behind a stroller or it's been a minute, right? Because we've got some moms that maybe did this and now they're back to it. And boy, stroller running has changed. There are all these options now. I want you to remember it's an acronym that we use just for form and mechanical efficiency. And it's WASH, WASH. And so what I mean by this, these are checkpoints when you get behind that stroller. First, it's going to be your wrists. Okay. So your wrists there, most of the running strollers now have adjustable handlebars, meaning multiple users can use it. It wasn't always like this.
No.
And so you want, right? I mean, when were you stroller? Like, I know my son was born in 2013 and we had a Bob stroller. It's a really popular brand and that was not adjustable.
No, I had one too. And I know exactly what you're talking about right now. And I'm not even in this world.
Well, and so I'll tell you, the world has gotten better. And so anyone that's in this world, you're going to be able to adjust that handlebar. So I want you to make sure your wrists are nice and neutral, straight with that handlebar. So that's the W in WASH. A stands for abdomen. So you want to have a nice, tight, solid core. If I were to walk up and sock you one in the gut, you would not fall over, right? And this is our beginning stance for most fitness movements anyway. And so the A in WASH stands for abdomen. The S is going to be for shoulders, especially when we get tired from pushing that stroller. And when we're beginning too, because we're not used to gripping something, you want to make sure your shoulders are down and away from your ears. And then the H is just going to be for your hips. Essentially, take your butt with you and be aware of your pelvis. So that's WASH. And I like to remind people to set up like this before they run. And if you feel yourself getting tired, or you had to change that blowout and you're a little bit flustered and you're going back on your path, do that wash, set up and check in your head to make sure you don't have any mechanical deficiencies, which will give you an overuse injury. And now nobody can enjoy running, not you, not your child.
Clarify the H for me, the hips. What do you mean take your butt with you with that?
with the H, with the hips, basically you want to be in good alignment. So a lot of times when we're running, we will stick our butt out. We'll stick our butt out, which will break at the waist is what running coaches will call it. So your body almost looks like a K when you're running. You can see a pretty significant break in the waist. And really what we're looking for is that pose pattern. It looks like a 4 when somebody's running instead of a K, where they would be reaching out and heel striking. I'm getting really nerd running coach on you. And I used to do this for a living, Melissa. So I don't want to confuse anybody, but essentially I want you to think about like if your pelvis, right? If there's that bowl of cherries, you're just going to, instead of spilling them out, so pretend like there's a bowl in front of you. I want you to make sure, like, bring it back to where you're not spilling that bowl of cherries or ice cream or whatever delicious thing that you might want to eat after this run. So you'll feel it. You'll feel it in your glutes. You'll feel your glutes. Actually, you'll feel it in your glutes. And then you'll also go back to that A in your abdomen. If you've got a nice, strong core and you've got that solid abdomen, I can't come up and sock you one and you'll fall it like you're solid there. Usually you've got your hips with you. So just make sure your hips are in alignment, and it helps a lot of people to think about that bowl visual. Anybody who has worked with their OBGYN on, pelvic health, or maybe a physical therapist or anybody in this, they can help you get that awareness for your pelvis and your hips. But that's going to be really important. When we're behind a stroller, here's the good news. All of this alignment stuff, it happens naturally because there's a big object that we're pushing in front of us. So for a lot of runners, where they go wrong, or where they get into trouble, like overuse injuries, is they heel strike or they break at the waist and they do all these awful things that the stroller is going to prevent you from about 60% of these things. Now it's harder to push something. And if you think pushing a stroller uphill is hard, try going downhill. Try going downhill when you're like having to break your body the whole time, right? Because something between 50 and 100 pounds is in front of you. But I mean, if you can nail this wash, that combined with just the fact that you have a stroller in front of you, it is actually a really good opportunity to learn good running form. And then when you're out of that season and you don't have the stroller in front of you, suddenly you've got a lot of reps in with better running habits for form.
Yeah, I had to clarify that H because I was like, if I'm not quite sure she's saying, I'm not sure some of our beginner listeners would know either. And this is perfect because I got to imagine you can apply all of this even if you're not pushing a stroller.
Yes. But I want these beginner runners to hear loud and clear. Again, I know we just got really tactical for a minute, and I'm a nerd like that, and I'm happy to do it anytime. We got really tactical there, but we're coming full circle because it's a mindset thing, right? Like some of the excuses our bad self will give us sometimes is, oh, well, if I have to be behind a stroller, it's going to wreck my running gait. And now I'm going to handicap myself for, after. No, you're not. It's actually a really good form check. And runners with the worst form are runners that have been doing it for a long time because you've got a lot of reps in, perhaps maybe in not like the best mechanical way. The stroller is going to self-correct you.
Yeah. Beautiful. It's beautiful. And everything that you said, they can apply in the weight room. They can apply with their other training. We do exactly the same thing, maybe not walking around with their wrist straight, but it's something you have to pay attention to when you're bench pressing. Most people have, the wrist flexed back and they're pushing. pretend you're pushing your stroller. Like, I love this. I love the connection that we're making. You know, your abs have to be in shape. Your shoulders have to be down with any type of move that you're doing, you know, like this is perfect. Goes right along with what our listeners are doing or preparing to do too, you know?
Safety, but then it's also, I know your listeners are busy moms.
Yeah.
Mama, you have got a finite amount of energy and an infinite things to do all day. And so I want you to be energy efficient when you run. That way it fills your cup and you have more energy to do the things that you need to do after that run. It's an energy efficiency. Of course, it's safety. But I mean, let's get like real mom for a second. It's an energy efficiency thing. It's so you can do all the things that you're going to be demanded to do throughout the day when that runs over.
Yep, absolutely. Oh, Suzy, I feel like we could just talk for hours. Like if we live next door, we'd probably be together and best friends all day, every day.
I just had the exact same thought. We totally would.
We would like be inseparable. What state are you in again?
I'm in North Carolina. I'm a military spouse as well. And my husband is finishing 20 years of service. And so we are moving to the coast. But it's been a really great, any listener out there that has connections, I'll thank them for their service. And it's been a really neat community of moms to be a part of as well.
Oh, cool. Well, yes. Thank you for your service too. For you, it's hard being a military wife. I mean, that's a whole nother podcast that we can get into, but what you do so your husband can serve and protect, like it's amazing. It's just absolutely amazing. And then here you guys are raising these beautiful kids and you're still training. Like no one can give any excuses after listening to this podcast episode.
Thank you for letting me share, Melissa.
We will put everything in the show notes, you guys. So if you miss something or you want to take better notes and you're driving, don't worry, everything will be there. And we'll put that the freebie training that you're going to provide as well in the show notes too.
Awesome.
Thanks for coming on, Suzy. I can't wait to connect with you again.
Thanks, Melissa.
Bye, everyone.
All right, Katie Danger, if I could only promote one thing on this podcast, Real Talk, it would be Super Greens every time, because I feel like every listener needs it no matter what season of life she's in. Can you tell me, though, how is Super Greens different from other greens products on the market?
Well, first and foremost, it is amazing in taste. I know a lot of people are going to be hesitant when it comes to greens because they may as well just go out and eat some grass. But I'm telling you, we sweetened our green with tangerine fruit, so it cuts the bitter. But as far as what makes it different in formula, it's 11 different superfoods. It's got 6 full servings of veggie per 7-gram scoop. And here's the big kicker, 25% of your daily recommended amount of fiber.
Wow, awesome.
And then the last thing is we naturally sweetened it with stevia, so there's no sucralose. It's a perfect greens product that anybody should be taking.
Thank you so much for listening to the Run Lift Mom podcast. I want to let you know that you can swipe up in the podcast player that you're in to see the show notes. That's going to take you to my website and you're going to get a deep dive on today's show. Cool, huh? You could think of it as a blog post that complements what was covered today with all of the links and resources discussed. Don't forget to check out the podcast partners as well with some really great offers for you. And until I get into your earpiece again, remember, for while bodily training is of some value, godliness is of value in every way, as it holds promise for the present life and also for the life to come. That's from 1 Timothy 4:8, and this has been the Run Lift Mom podcast. This episode is brought to you by Alouette, where, as the name would suggest, all of the skincare and beauty products are made with organic aloe vera. If you would like to try the best-selling restorative enzyme peel, this is for your face, callous barbell hands, and running feet. Just go to runliftmompod.com/peel. Again, that's runliftmompod.com/peel, and I will get you the Alouette restorative enzyme peel.